Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us once again. I'm Elizabeth Voss, Editor-in-Chief of Disobedient Media, and I'm with Suzie Dawson, the leader of the Internet Party. And we're so glad to be here with Decipher You, another episode of going through the Snowden files and analyzing reports journalists have never reported on. So I hope she's ready to say hi. We had a couple of issues with Zoom this evening while we were trying to get started, so we apologize for being a couple minutes late, but hopefully we'll be good now. And I think we're on to document 153.
Cool. Hey, everyone. I think you can hear me. Hi. Just trying to sort out the view here. I'm not sure what I've done wrong. Oh, okay.
Yeah, Zoom's been a bit odd this evening. We had a couple of issues starting up like normal, and the format still seems a little bit weird or something.
Yeah, there's something definitely going on with my settings. So I'm not sure why. Hey, everyone, I'm really sorry that we were late. Good, they can hear us, and it looks like everything's all right.
Good.
Mute myself for a sec while I check the YouTube stream.
Yeah, it just when we usually start talking, the way that the screen looks is not formatted the way that it usually looks when we're speaking to each other at the start. So.
Okay, cool.
Playback, wonderful.
Oh, that's you. Okay, good.
Well, like 1 second. I was checking chat to see if it looked okay, and it looks like it does.
Cool, awesome. Oh, we have Blake here tonight. Blake, can you say hi? Can we hear you?
Hi.
Hi. So Blake is going to call out any questions that you guys have and let us know if there's any answers to questions that we've asked or something like that in the chat. Looks like, wow, there's some new people as well and lots of familiar faces.
Awesome.
Cool. And if you guys could just like send lots of tweets to the hashtag and tell everybody that we're live, that would be really awesome. Thank you. Otherwise, let's get into it. So what document number are we at?
I believe, according to Fly, it was 153, and that document was called Talk on Intelligence Community Reform Tomorrow.
Awesome. I will just find it. Okay, cool. Okay, straight into it. I'm just going to share screen and let's go. Here we go. Talk on Intelligence Community Reform from CRD Communications. Reflections on Intelligence Community Reform and Analyst Collaboration.
I noticed that. It should be an interesting topic. I don't know if it would be discussed in a legitimate sort of genuine way, but.
So the guys from the State Department.
Has served as a consultant for US government agencies and private sector organizations.
So intelligence community reform in 2004 would have been not reform in terms of it getting smaller. It would be reform in terms of it getting bigger. And it would tie into Transformation 2.0 and the enhanced intelligence sharing between agencies. He wants not only to think NSA, but to learn how NSA and state can work together more effectively. Okay, so this is just a promo for an event where this guy's going to be talking. So I don't think there's anything there that we would need to report on.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, next document, new SID award. Distinguished Award, Service Award. Oh, I think we may have seen this before, the gold metal clock.
Yeah, something like that.
Okay, the Global Network Forum. Now this is interesting. This is where the heads of the Five Eyes get together once a year and talk about what they're doing together. Why do we need the forum? If targets were to be tracked successfully, the challenge must be addressed from a global perspective. So the 2004 meeting was then the inauguration of this Global Network Forum.
I haven't heard of this link access programs group before.
Here's some more information about this Five Eyes SIGINT partnership business vision. This is the document that I would love to get my hands on one day. It's like the manifesto that governs the relationship and the mission of the Five Eyes. The Five Eyes enterprise will subscribe to sharing as the preferred default option. So by default, they would share. That is really interesting.
And they've underlined it themselves.
Yeah, identifying a mechanism that allows the sharing of sensitive information between partners would enhance all accesses. Critical to the success of exploiting the global network to satisfy customer requirements. Through a great deal of background work, the initial charter was drafted for the Global Network Forum. The structure identified the principles of sensitive data sharing established through the drafting of a tiered approach to sensitive data sharing document. That's particularly interesting to me because that tiered approach, I've actually never read that before, but that's how I have envisioned and how I've previously written about the way that information flows across the Five Eyes. That's when I talked about the tiered wedding cake in reverse.
Definitely. I remember you describing that.
Where the bulk of the information is retained at the top tier and then portions of it flow down through the second, third and fourth tiers.
Definitely. And I remember we discussed the also being chokeholded and obviously tiered and not tiered, but it was disseminated over time through different levels in a similar sort of a way.
Definitely, and the position of the countries on like which tier they're on was dependent upon the level of favor they had carried with the United States.
Yeah.
So what have they achieved so far? They've worked out who they are and what they're doing. They have established 2 new Five Eyes bodies. This is the first I've heard of this. The Special Source Advisory Board and the Collection Management Advisory Board. Agreement on the tiered approach to sensitive data sharing. The Special Source Advisory Board are charged with defining a new Five Eyes ECI to support the new agreement by December 2004. Agreement on updates to the existing ticket window CONOP with an implementation plan to be presented to the Global Network Forum in December was established to enable reciprocal data sharing with second-party partners. Second-party partners are the Five Eyes. without jeopardizing sensitive sources and methods. They continue to push forward on the actions from that forum and with preparations for the next conference in December. This looks interesting.
Yeah,
They
it
look
does.
to identify commonality between partners on the definition of a global access map. So to make sense of this, I think we have to look back at what we've learned in recent weeks. So we've learned that the NSA has access to all of the other countries' satellite infrastructure.
Yeah,
And direct accesses to the spying. Basically, the NSA is able to use the hardware and facilities of its partner agencies autonomously. And this is something that we know from the Kim.com situation as well, that the GCSB, the New Zealand NSA's spying infrastructure, continued to be used to spy on Kim.com illegally after the GCSB had stopped. Am I making sense? So,
yeah.
So this is something that was discovered in court. Even though the GCSB had said, okay, we know what we're doing is illegal and we're going to stop it because it's illegal, their apparatus, their spying apparatus continued to be used to spy on Kim.com. And at the time, the only explanation for that was that the NSA were using the GCSB's instruments to spy on Kim even after the GCSB had stopped.
Yeah.
And these documents are explaining to us how that could happen, because it was a big question in the New Zealand papers. How could this happen? How could our spy agency's gear be used to spy on Kim after our government had said no more? And this is how. So when they're talking here about this global access map,
Incredible.
That map, I assume, would be like a network map. And that network map would show who has what hardware and apparatus where. And we know from these documents that the NSA has direct access to all of it.
Yes.
That also then ties back into what Snowden had talked about, where he had said that if a country couldn't spy on its own citizens, it could simply ask the NSA to spy on them instead.
Yeah.
And that they used each other as a bypass. And the same with NSA with GCHQ. So NSA couldn't spy on Americans, but GCHQ could spy on Americans.
Yeah, that definitely goes back to that tiered issue that we were talking about just a few minutes ago.
Sure. And then that tiered data sharing is how they then funneled the data back to the people who weren't supposed to be spying on their own citizens in the first place.
Definitely.
Again, a great deal of background work will be carried out with partners prior to the forum to ensure we can reach agreement points promptly and cover the wide range of topics on the agenda in the short time available. Keep a lookout on SIDToday for another follow-up article after the December conference. Well, we definitely will. We'll be very happy to see what they have to say after the December conference.
Definitely.
Okay, so the only thing that I would add to our notes there is we have notes previously about this Five Eyes business vision document. Just that sensitive data sharing is one of the points in that document. So piece by piece, we're slowly working out what's in it, even though we don't have the document itself.
Exactly. That's the definite takeaway from this.
Okay, next document from the NSA Liaison Officer, Terrorist Threat Integration Center. It's a recruitment document. For 10 positions at the Terrorist Threat Integration Center. 5 analysts, 1 deputy group chief, 1 senior intelligence officer, 1 foreign liaison officer, and 2 intelligence officers. So one thing that's interesting is they actually now have an entire position just for information sharing.
True. That is an important point. So the TTIC is composed of partner organizations, including the FBI, Department of Homeland Security, Department of Defense, Department of State, CIA, and others. But it doesn't belong to any department or agency and reports to the DCI.
Director of Central Intelligence.
$500 employees, and it says that it will grow. So by now,
NCTC, the August 2004 executive order. So this is a very recent thing, the establishment of the NCTC. I think we're only in October 2004, yeah. Right?
So just a few months.
October, yeah. The NCTC are the ones who've been monitoring Twitter. The official Twitter account. If you've watched my documentary, Diary of a Person of Interest, you'll know that the official Twitter account for the NCTC, which now doesn't exist, the Twitter account doesn't exist. They actually canned their Twitter account. But in 2011, during Occupy, they followed my @anddarken activism Twitter account. They followed it from their official NC, and I was like, what is this National Center for Terrorism Control following me for? I'm like some chick in New Zealand doing like basic local activism. What in the hell? And I actually blocked them out of spite because I just thought how ridiculous. Like they're supposed to be following like, you know, armed extremists, like actual terrorists, and instead here they are following just like people expressing democratic dissent within English-speaking nations. But it's interesting to know that they only were formed in August 2004.
Yeah, definitely. And that's right around the time that Facebook happened and all of that, you know.
Yeah, that's true.
Of all this.
Yeah, that's true. Let's keep reading.
Yeah, I always think it's interesting when I'm on Twitter or something and I see like who to follow and it's like the NSA.
Yeah, or CIA.
Yeah.
Calls for the NCTC to undertake all functions assigned to TTIC. So TTIC, what was the NCTC before the NCTC existed?
Yeah.
TTIC is the predecessor to the NCTC. NCTC will be in charge of or will undertake all functions assigned to the TTIC, and the organization will get bigger.
Yeah.
Right. That is interesting. Again, it's not something that needs to be reported on, I think, as an independent point, but it's interesting contextual information for me. So the NCTC came out of the TTIC and it was formed in August 2004 as a result of a presidential directive.
Yeah, so if I wouldn't particularly focus on that writing, but I think that would be almost something that sounds like it would be great as a little infograph, like a history dot point, you know, but to add to other information that fits that type of visual presentation.
Blake, if people are saying interesting things in chat, can you please be the voice of God and read them to us?
Yeah, it just takes so much time, and when people are trying to listen and it's not live. I know there are lots of gaps when we're reading chat or whatever.
Yeah, there's one from Independent Outsider. He asked, are there ways to identify whether someone is actually NSA? In US, more reports identifying people as NSA. Also, what are advantages of falsely identifying NSA agents?
I wouldn't have a clue how to identify someone as NSA. I don't know what you mean by someone. Do you mean like someone on Twitter or someone like walking down the street? Or I need some more contextual information there to answer that. Generally speaking, this is such a massive web of all of these different government groups and stuff. The people that you are likely to encounter as an activist or even in real life are very unlikely to be NSA. They are more likely to be an employee of a private contracting agency or a private security agency, a subcontractor. You know, it's like we were talking about second, third, fourth party support services in a software services context. It's a similar thing with these guys. So the NSA will contract to whoever or will give information to whichever agency who will have a subcontractor, who will have a subcontractor, who will have a subcontractor. And that kind of like third line is what you're likely to encounter on the street or be targeted by as an activist. So the NSA is very unlikely to say, Suzie, we care about your Twitter account, you know, if I wasn't already a target or a person of interest. But there are these security companies who employ people to do nothing but troll Twitter all day, making spreadsheets of lists of Twitter accounts that they think are interesting and that might be able to be harvested and become targets one day. And then they will sell those spreadsheets to the parent security company, who will give it to whatever sub-agency, who might then elevate it to another agency, who might, or like the FBI, who might then send it to the NSA and say, we are interested in XYZ that's on this spreadsheet. So it's very insulated. There's many layers between the NSA and the public, many layers. So it's very unlikely that you're going to encounter an NSA agent unless you are a customer of the NSA working directly with the NSA. But as a layperson, you wouldn't, I think, come across an NSA agent.
But if what the questioner meant was, do you spot CoinTel or something like that? There are a number of people that have some really great articles all about that, which as far as CoinTel narratives, which include people like Adam Carter. I think he's written a number of articles on G2 Space about, you know, how do you identify these narratives that are kind of BS. And I think Caitlin Johnstone has also done some really great articles on countering that type of narrative. So I don't know about identifying individuals, but I think there are lots of different ways to identify establishment lines or manipulation.
Independent Outsider seems to be talking about reporters. So if someone is identified, it's actually the other way around. Independent Outsider saying, so if someone is identified in MSM, they'll be lower level. Actually, it's the other way around. So the very, very high level people in NSA tend to be public figures. So their names are known. So that's why when we're studying these documents, those names are usually unredacted. So the top level executives are usually unredacted because they're already publicly identified as being associated with NSA. The low level employees are the ones that are almost never identified. Their names are redacted, they're not public figures, they're not known.
And that's totally fair enough, you know?
I don't think the executives are the face of the NSA, that's correct. Like the directors, the deputy directors, these are the ones that go and testify in front of Congress and are on C-SPAN and stuff like that, or are brought in as expert opinions and this type of thing.
Yeah, they're the same people. And I mean, we've seen this in middle management as well, but it's the same people that are a revolving door between all the different agencies. And they just swap them like baseball cards.
Very much so. Okay, we'll keep going. Now you're speaking my language. NSA is linguistic resources.
Interesting.
This is a repo, so it's possible that we've read it before.
Yeah, I mean, we've looked before at how important linguistics is to the NSA and their focus on it, and the number of people they employ in that is huge.
Okay, so they're just talking again about how they don't have enough linguists, which is ironic. Yeah, we have read this before, so
yeah,
I'm not
we've
really
looked
going
at this type of thing before.
It's interesting. It's interesting to me that the NSA is constantly complaining that they don't have enough linguists, because we know they had about 8,000 linguists and that they represent nearly 2/3 of their total workforce.
Yeah.
So the bulk of the NSA is actually linguists sitting there translating foreign language communications. It's the overwhelming majority of the work that they do. Okay, things you should know about information sharing. That's also, actually, I think it might be quite good to go through this one again.
Okay.
Because one thing I want to do tonight is have a talk about customers.
Okay. Yeah, we talked. Suzie and I talked about this a little bit earlier.
Things you should know about information sharing. If the SIGINT system, which we call the Eye of Sauron, which they call the global network, were a private company, what would it sell? Historically, their product has been reporting. But crucial as this reporting is, in recent years, it has become clear that they have other goods of equal value to offer their customers. Things that have sometimes been locked away inside their walls and fences. What kinds of things? Their knowledge, insight, data, accesses. Interesting that to them, accesses is considered a product. Very interesting.
Definitely.
Now the agency and the larger intelligence community have recognized they need to get every type of valuable information, or the need to get every type of valuable information from whatever source to those who can use it. And this is what's known as information sharing. This is what they see as their most important challenge post 9/11. And which is what you always hear us talking about Transformation 2.0. Transformation 2.0 was their plan to enhance the intelligence sharing between agencies. And here we go. The director has provided the vision in his Transformation 2.0 initiative.
Yeah, so if you were going to write up the subject Transformation 2.0 in these documents, this would be fantastic for that, you know, along with the other.
And
as well.
Yeah, in both part 1 and part 2 of the Decipher You articles from the first and second batches, I covered Transformation 2.0 pretty thoroughly. It's just basically this entire idea of needing enhanced information sharing.
Definitely. And I think, yeah, and one point from that is again the fact that they don't seem to care about security, but they definitely care about opening this information up to their other agencies.
So the conversation that I wanted to have about customers is that we have been remarking over and over again about how corporate the language is in these documents, how they keep talking about customer service, how they are obsessed actually with serving their customers. And their customers are things like the Department of Energy and they have a whole bunch of economics partners and the Federal Reserve Bank and people like this. So, and then of course the military partners, the DOD, the CIA, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so we've understood that it's about money.
Yeah.
We've understood that the spying is economic. We know for a fact that they are spying for economic reasons. and that they are making billions. They both themselves and their customers are making billions, trillions of dollars off of this information. But the way that I saw the customers and the way that I understood the relationship of the customers has substantially changed for me this week after some further research. So when we were looking through the UN stuff and we were seeing, I've got recent tweets about this, and we've done a few episodes about it now. We've seen the NSA taking direct responsibility for the content of major diplomatic speeches at the UN, and also decisions made by, we learned in the last episode, by Paul Bremer when he was the US ambassador to Iraq, literally sitting in Saddam's palaces, firing the entire Iraqi defense force. And we said, and I think I even tweeted at the time, we said, we've been blaming the wrong people. We've been blaming the guys who get up and stand up and make these speeches at the UN. We've been blaming Bush. We've been blaming Colin Powell. We have been blaming Bremer, but these guys are just the faces. It's actually the system that is producing the content that they're getting up and speaking that is the problem. Well, after that, I came across some further information about the customers. So I don't think it is the NSA actually, or the system, that is the problem or the point of culpability, because I realized that in the customer information needs portal, which is where requests come into the NSA from these agencies to fulfill specific information requirements.
Yeah.
That is the orders. That's how NSA gets its orders. NSA doesn't get its orders by someone picking up the phone and saying, NSA, we need you to give us information on Iraqi WMDs so that Colin Powell can go and make some bullshit speech to the UN. That's not how it happens. These information needs requests are logged in this customer portal. And I remember saying a few weeks back, we need to start seeing some of those information needs requests. We need to be able to study and analyze them so that we can understand what it is that these customers are ordering the NSA to do for them. Now, what I came across this week is the concept that the Eye of Sauron of the NSA sucks up all of this information, and collectively that information, when they collect it all, that everything they've collected is like the spoils. It's like the treasure trove. It's like, imagine a big treasure chest with all the information stashed inside it. The customers are the benefactors of that. Yeah. They are collectively the owners, the recipients, the benefactors is really, I think, the right word. They're the benefactors of it. And what they are doing is these customers are dipping their hands into the treasure trove and pulling out chunks of treasure and then using it to make megabucks, capitalizing on it. Exactly. And so that made me understand that the culpability lies not with the guy making the speech, not with the NSA who's collected the information that's provided the content for the speech. The culpability is with the customers.
Yeah.
The customers of the NSA are what is driving this entire thing.
Yeah, because it's like, I mean, the basic economic principle of supply being driven by demand.
Yes, and the demand is coming from the customers.
Exactly, yeah.
And collectively, the customers are pretty much the entire US government.
Yeah.
And a bunch of, other corporates and whatnot. But that's where, I think you called it the deep state.
Yeah.
You called it the deep state, and you're right. You really were right. Collectively, they are the deep state.
Yeah, by that I meant the enmeshment, intertangling, intertwining of the corporate second party, or the corporate kind of sector with these agencies, and then the relationship there, and then the way that they together act as a customer and drive the supply of this information.
They are the centers of economic power.
Yeah.
For the United States, military and economic power. Whether they are private or whether they are government, it doesn't really matter when both of them, when they both have their hands in the spoils.
Yeah.
When they're divvying up the spoils amongst them. So to that extent, the NSA are like the bandits that steal, because this is what they're doing. All this data that they're sucking up is stolen product, is stolen property, and then they are commercializing it by selling it to these customers. So I see the NSA are like the bandits, the thieves. They steal people's private data from all over the world, but then they're doing it for their taskmasters. And their taskmasters are not just the president or just the White House or just the Department of Defense or just any one thing. The taskmasters are collectively the customers.
Definitely.
So what I would like to know personally is, what is the full customer list of the NSA?
That would be incredible to know.
And what are the information needs requests that are coming in through the information needs portal from the customers?
Yeah. Both of those would be the hugest pieces of information I think that could come out of this, definitely.
I'd also like to know, I'd like to read that business vision document for the Five Eyes, because I think that contains a lot of pieces of the puzzle, for sure.
And so if I can interpret what you're saying the way that I'm hearing you, and you check if I'm hearing.
Oh, you just cut out, Elizabeth.
Oh, sorry, my internet is a little bit unstable at the moment, and it's been telling me that it's breaking up, so let me know if I cut out. But basically the way I'm understanding what you're saying is that we've seen and we understand that how the NSA is stealing the information, and we know that they do steal the information, but what you're saying that we need to focus on and look for is what information they're being told to steal by the customer, and the request, and then who the customer actually is that's driving these bandits, or the NSA.
Definitely. So I feel like the attention of the public is constantly directed towards they're like placeholders. It's the George Bush, like we're taught to hate these evil figures, right? Hate George Bush, hate Trump, blah, 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 blah. And I feel like these figures are manufactured, like their job is to take the heat.
Yeah, or Hillary,
the focus. Their job is to be the focus of the public eye. This is their intended purpose, right? Like when you take the job of White House press secretary, you know that you're going to have to stand up and people are just going to talk shit about you and whatever. Sean Spicer knew full well that he was going to be turned into this hated figure. They always are, the press secretaries. It's the same thing with the presidents. So George Bush goes to the UN and says the horrible speech full of lies that leads to the war, and then we all hate George Bush for 10 years. But what I'm doing is I'm peeling back those like layers that are put in front of us, and I'm realizing, well, what's behind that? And I know from the NSA going, oh, well, we provided all the intelligence for that speech. Our work is so historic. That actually that speech wasn't written by George Bush. It didn't even come from George Bush's speechwriter. The content of the speech came from the NSA. And so, and that was why in the previous episode I'd said, aha, the NSA is the problem. The NSA is the problem because they came up with content. But it was after that I realized that, hang on a second, why did the NSA come up with the content? The NSA came up with the content because they were asked to come up with the content. Who were they asked to come up with the content by?
Yeah.
By an information needs request from a customer that came through the NSA's customer information portal. So then the next question is, who is the customer that made that request?
Yeah, so going with your earlier metaphor, we can see them stealing, like if you see a bandit going out the street. And so we could, just like we see George Bush. And what we're not seeing is where it goes to. And so we're trying to find that out.
We're not seeing who has said, go and steal this.
Exactly.
And give it to us.
Which happens behind closed doors, metaphorically.
Oh my God, this is exactly it. It's like the cat burglar, right?
NSA
is like the cat burglar that comes in and steals your stuff. But who hired the cat burglar? Who told the cat burglar, we are interested in this diamond necklace, which is in this jewelry box, which is in this person's house? Who did? And the answer is the customer.
Yeah.
So who's the customer?
And we have a few of them. I mean, I think from what I've seen, we've gotten like partial lists at different times.
Yeah, the partial list. I think we actually published it from batch 3, didn't we?
I think so. I think the article I wrote of some of our final list that I think was from batch 4. It was just a small list though. And that was the one that included the Federal Reserve. If I'm mistaken, it was batch 3. I didn't intend to pull from that, but
the intercept reporting also contained partially some of that information. So Fly says there's a clip that states that there were 50 customers in 2004. That's correct. That is really good that you remember that, Fly. You're right. We did know the total amount of customers.
Which is really helpful.
We don't really know, actually, and what's just struck me is, do we know if the customers have customers themselves?
I don't know if there's a way to know that unless they mention it in the documents. But it's definitely an interesting question.
So when the customer puts in a request for information, what are they then doing with that? Are they just keeping it for themselves and using it for their own benefit, or are they then passing it on to other customers?
Are there further links on the chain of, higher tiers or whatever? Yeah.
But I feel very strongly that we need to somehow get our hands on some of those, even just a few, just to see what is the format, what is the type, what is the content of just a few of those requests. That would be absolutely priceless.
Yeah.
And then the next question that I had is who within the customer organizations, from an HR perspective, who is making those requests? Who is it that's literally sitting and doing the data entry into the NSA portal to make those requests? Be very interested to know. And then I'm wondering, it stands to reason that this process is replicated amongst the Five Eyes. So for example, there's a famous recent case where the New Zealand government had the GCSB use the global network access to get information on competitors to the World Trade Organization directorship position that Tim Grosser, the New Zealand, I think he was Minister of Finance, Minister of something, maybe trade or finance or something. He wanted the World Trade Organization position. So the government used our spy agencies' access to the global network to spy on all of the contenders for that position.
Wow.
Yeah, so I'm thinking to myself, well then, who was the customer? Was it it must have been one of the New Zealand ministries? And who put in the request? Because GCSB must also have a customer information needs portal, and all of the New Zealand ministries and New Zealand government agencies and God knows what private agencies in New Zealand must be able to log information needs requests in that portal. So I'm wondering who does it, because it's very unlikely to be a secretary. It's very unlikely to be someone, a data entry person that's doing this high level stuff. You would have to have, obviously I don't think it's the directors either. You're not going to have a government minister sitting there entering in the request into the portal. They're going to tell someone, pass the orders down the chain. But I'm really fascinated to know who is it? What position is responsible for entering in these requests.
Definitely.
I think that will tell us a lot. I feel like we will learn something about the way that this all happens and functions if we know that information.
Definitely, I agree.
I don't think it's the IT staff that are doing it. I don't think it's the administrative staff that are doing it. I don't think it's the executives that are doing it. So who is doing it?
Well, I'm hoping that as we go through into further documents, we'll find some that deal with that.
Hopefully, yeah. And then I'm also wondering what the caveats are for the use of the information. So we know that when the NSA gives information to law enforcement agencies, that it binds them from ever disclosing that NSA was the source of that. So that's where there's the famous practice where FBI then goes and uses NSA information in court that they're not allowed to tell even the court that they got that information from the NSA, and that they then have to go back and reproduce so they take something that they know, but they can't say it was from NSA. So then they go and they investigate themselves the same source that the NSA used to reproduce that information and be able to submit it to the court themselves as legitimate intelligence.
Yeah, I remember hearing about that, or you've discussed that with me before. Either way.
Yeah, and Snowden would be kicking me right now for not remembering what the actual terminology is for that, because there's a specific term for that. But
it's a logical concept. Like it makes sense.
Parallel reconstruction.
There you go.
Here we go. I just got it. It's called parallel reconstruction. So they've been given information. They can't disclose that they even, that they do know it, but they can go and reconstruct that by other investigative means.
Yeah.
So it's cheating is what it is. It's literally cheating. It's
knowing the answer and having to go and show your work in a different way after you know the answer already. But
yeah. It's gaming the system. And to the detriment of the target, always to the detriment of the target.
Definitely.
Amazing. And then think about, okay, so then the next step from that is that then FBI is a customer of the NSA. Yeah. FBI is logging an information need in that customer request portal, and then NSA is fulfilling that need. FBI is taking that information going, aha, we can't use this, and that's where the parallel reconstruction is coming from. So that's all well and good that we understand that's happening with FBI, but then what is happening with some of these other departments and these other customers?
Yeah, and I would expect that over the years, as their technology and their capabilities have, their need for that type of parallel reconstruction would have increased, because there would be more and more and more that they would be able to do, but then they would have to pretend not to be able to do and go around and all that. So.
Okay, we'll get on with the documents now. But yeah, this is, for me now, the question mark is not hanging over the NSA, it's hanging over the customers.
Yeah, that makes sense. No, I think it's important that we point that out.
Yeah, I think that's the big unknown now for me.
Yeah. And yeah, as we're going to the next document, I think that's part of the reason that is as well, is because the whole mass surveillance that Snowden pointed out is the so much as far as like the soundbite takeaway point that the media went with was so much about the how the NSA was taking this information as opposed to who was driving the taking of it.
That's a brilliant point. But see, this is a process. Like we had to learn what we did about what the NSA was doing.
No, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying that's been really well established. That's all.
Yeah, definitely. People had to know what they were doing. That was extremely important, because we had no freaking idea. Back in 2011, we had no idea. No idea.
There was speculation that the government had abilities like this or capabilities like this, but I think it was stuffed under the rug as conspiracy theory. It was dismissed.
There's a difference between they could do it and they did do it.
There's a difference between speculation and evidence, for sure.
Definitely. But in the tech space, they were saying the government can do this. They weren't saying the
Yeah.
government is doing this.
Good
They-
point. Yeah.
Yeah, so even those who knew that the government had the technical capability didn't know the practical application, the scale of it, or that it was every day, everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah, big stuff. But it's so it's a natural process. It's taken years, and here we are.
It's a national process.
Yeah, I'm really messing with my words.
Natural process, but now we are able to start digging into this. Who is really behind it? Who is behind the NSA? And
Like,
the answer is the customers.
So it's like boiling it down. So it's boiling it down to cause and effect. We've seen the effect, now we're going after the cause type of thing. Sort of.
Very much, very much. But I definitely feel that now the light needs to be shone on the customers.
Definitely.
They are the beneficiaries of the mass theft. They're the beneficiaries of the violation of privacy and of the constitutional violations and the violations of the law. They are the beneficiaries, and that's why we need to go after them. We need to understand how they are driving and using the NSA. So the NSA is like a service provider. This is literally my understanding that I've reached this week. It is a service provider, no more, no less. The customers are who it is providing the service to.
That makes sense.
So, I mean, this is the thing, like, even if we were to defund the NSA, even if we were to shut down the NSA, the root of the problem is not the NSA, it's the customers. The customers will find another way.
Yeah.
They will find another way. The customers are the ones that need to be dealt with.
Because it's the whole supply demand issue again. So.
Exactly. Okay, now you're speaking my language. This is the second part, repost. Okay, so we've already seen that as well. The database is the report. Hang on, what is this? What number is this?
Should be
159. Over the years, NSA analysts have found that creative ways to capture knowledge of their targets, from index cards in wooden boxes to homegrown databases. This knowledge, or how we know what we know, is often what customers have in mind when they ask for raw, when they ask for raw SIGINT.
Yeah.
What if we could capitalize on the time and effort put into documenting this knowledge and find an easy and effective way to share it, allowing customers to access the information in our databases instead of SID disseminating it to them narratively has many benefits. An interactive mechanism for retrieving the data allows the customer. I'm having the ding, 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 very important feeling right now.
Yeah.
An interactive mechanism for retrieving the data allows the customer to get the specific information they need when they need it.
Interesting.
This is allowing the customer into the collection phase. This is bypassing the reporting. So usually it happens that the customer makes the request, the NSA goes and looks into the eye of Sauron, retrieves the specific data that relates to the request, analyzes the data, contextualizes the data, goes to the NSA knowledge base about the target, takes data from different places, puts it all together, massages it into a report, and then sends that report to the customer. What these guys are saying here is that some customers don't want that. Some customers just want to be handed the raw information themselves, and they will then perform the analysis themselves. In which case, the NSA literally becomes just a collection service, not a collection analysis service, is what I'm reading so far. Now, this interactive mechanism, an interactive mechanism for retrieving the data allows the customer to get the information they need. Interactive mechanism for retrieving, interactive between the customer and the collector during the retrieval of the data. allows the customers to get the information they need when they need it. Okay, we need to keep reading. This is definitely significant.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
This format is more useful to them because they can manipulate and analyze the information themselves. This also reduces the need for analysts to issue product reports and respond to requests for information, saving time and effort.
Yeah, that's one of the things I was thinking when you first described this, is that it would be easier and more cost efficient for the NSA once it was set up.
Yeah, but it could also mask the motivations of the customer.
True. Yeah, because there's less documentation.
The customer is not then saying what they want the analysis to be. They're saying, just give us the product. It's like going to the store and buying a bunch of ingredients. There's a variety of things that you could cook up with those ingredients.
Yeah.
A store clerk won't necessarily know what type of cake you're going to bake or what type of baking you're going to do just because you've bought flour and eggs and milk and butter, right? Mm-hmm. And I think from a customer perspective, that's exactly what's happening here, is they're getting the ingredients rather than providing a recipe.
Definitely. That's a really great way to put it, for sure.
For example, a directory of target-related facilities naturally lends itself to a database structure. Rapidly changing sets of information are not easily shared via traditional product reports. Adding through names to a list of 400 can be a difficult task. With database reporting, however, it is simply a built-in feature. Now we've gone from unclassified to secret. In July 2001, a joint team completed development of the PRC Defence Industries. Who is chat? We need to know, who is PRC Defence Industries? If someone can type that into the chat, please. Database reporting prototype, which is accessible to external customers via interlink. Database reporting. The database reporting is this handing data sets to a customer rather than handing reports of analysis to them. Database reporting definitely has to go in our notes, Liz.
Yeah, absolutely.
Valuable intelligence that is typically gathered in a target office database was made available to both internal agency analysts and customers throughout the intelligence community. This represents NSA's first instance of interlink-based database comment reporting. The prototype was a first step towards defining a standardized way of sharing SIG and FACT. The next iteration, Scorpio 4, provides database reporting via NSANet with planned releases on Interlink and the second party more. The concept was introduced in March 2002 as an interim solution database reporting initiative on Iranian nuclear proliferation procurement activities.
Interesting.
It was in response to stated customer needs and information gaps on this high priority target. Currently working on a scalable solution of this new concept, which could be applied to many different data sources.
So
the new architecture is structured SIG and sharing space.
Kathy B has found a page on the International Space Station program. Kathy, is this to do with the company we asked everyone to look up, or let me just check. I'm not sure.
Structured SIG sharing space is where they're going to share the databases instead of sharing the reports. The ability to share SIG and fact via database reporting will not replace narrative reporting altogether. However, it does facilitate information sharing and provides a powerful vehicle for an analyst to add more information to shared analytic space. Wow. Factories and Institutes directory. Where is that? PRC, Defense Industries. Their database reporting prototype, Factories and Institutes directory. Factories and Institutes directory. The database reporting prototype. That sounds like it was a commercial product.
Yeah, it does.
Like PRC Industries developed a commercial database reporting product, which would be why it's called Factories and Institutes.
Yeah, someone
and the NSA has modified that solution.
I'm looking up PR Defense Industries myself, but someone in chat asked if it was the People's Republic of China.
No. Where's that part about the new architecture? So they're developing their own solution. S1 is currently working on a scalable solution, which means one that they can deploy across their partners and everything.
Actually, oddly, the only thing that does come up when I search for this is the People's Republic of China defense industry. So
PRC Defense Industries.
Yeah.
Completed development of the PRC Defense Industries database reporting prototype. Why? How is that possible? They wouldn't be able to make an acquisition from a Chinese defense company, surely.
Yeah, I don't think that's right. I think what it is that there's no the first page of Bing or whatever is not showing the correct company because there's
probably this exact term, defense industries.
No, it's not the exact thing. It's
well, there you go then. So we need to search with quotation marks around this precisely. Okay. PRC Defense Industries.
Yeah. I searched that. I searched that term. It's just that nothing comes up with that would be accurate. So it looks to me like there's not a lot of digital record of this company. Or they may have changed names, because a lot of times companies that want to keep the history secret will merge and change names. I have PRC composites, which came up first when I searched the term in quotation marks. So basically I will have to look at this in more depth later to figure out and track down if this is referring to a company that we can find out anything about.
Okay, let's make a, PRC Defense Industry, Cacti Juice and PRC Defense Industries are not the same thing.
Yeah.
Definitely not the same thing. It would be virtually impossible that NSA would be able to make a software acquisition from Chinese defense. Maybe they would steal something, and use and repurpose some technology from them, but there wouldn't be an acquisition from them.
Yeah.
Surely.
I would hope not.
Surely. I'm sure it would have to be embargoed or something. Like it would be virtually unheard of, I would think. But I feel like we're going off on the wrong track on that.
No, it's fine. I'll have to look at it later.
Yeah, so the two big takeaways from this are what database reporting is, the fact that it's being used, that they are rolling out a scalable solution, which means to customers and partners and or partners. And then that last part about the new architecture.
Yeah.
I'm just going to revisit quickly. Where is it? New architecture, working on a scalable solution. The new architecture is structured SIG sharing space. So what this means is that instead of them just sharing documents or links or whatever, they're actually sharing databases. They're sharing data sets. Okay, so because this opens a whole new can of worms, right? First of all, the fact that they've been providing raw SIG into it all, but certainly this idea that they would send target databases around the place.
Yeah.
If they're not performing the I mean, how does this fit in with their with the restrictions on them? You remember when every employer had to sign the document with multiple documents once a year saying that they'd read all of the rules, the ethics guidelines, and the congressional guidelines for that. I mean, how does sharing entire databases fit in with that?
I have no idea.
They would have to analyze the database contents before they shared them, because they would have to make sure that they weren't violating their guidelines, their compliance guidelines. But this the structured SIG sharing space is very, very, very interesting to me. It's like a workspace. It's I'm trying to think of a way that that people would be able to understand this outside of a software development context. To me, it's like a window or a portal that everyone across the Five Eyes or wherever will be able to log into and will be able to access in real time those data sets, the shared working space. Like graphic designers do with, a creative cloud or whatever, where they can work on the same thing in real time.
Yeah.
But this is the intelligence agency version of it, where they're working on the intelligence product in real time. They're able to access the intelligence product in real time.
Awesome.
I would love to read more about that. Unfortunately, there's no name for it yet.
We might come across it in another document, hopefully soon after.
There's that README file for the traffic. What was it that we found? This is what I want a README file for this.
Yeah, I remember that.
Traffic thief. Traffic thief, right? I want a README file for this.
Definitely.
What I would really like is someone, and we got that off of edwardsnowden.com, didn't we? I'm pretty sure that's where the README file for traffic thief came from. I love to go to edwardsnowden.com and find if there is other README files. But this, we need to keep an eye out for this new solution that they're coming up with to replace this proprietary solution from these guys.
Definitely.
This is very significant. Okay, I'm going to make some notes about this really quickly because I feel like that's a super important document.
For sure.
Blake, do you want to catch us up on chat?
I don't know if Blake's still here. I'm trying to keep a bit of an eye on what's going on, but we've got a lot of good people here, so it's been a little bit busy. Oh, it looks like somebody found PRC Project Risk Consultants, LLC.
Now we're talking.
Ibn Kim, thank you so much. That's great.
No, I don't think so. Not unless it's, there must be an American business registry somewhere, right?
Yeah, when I initially looked, you know, with the quotation marks, there was no exact company with that name that came up.
Were you searching specifically in a business directory?
No, I just searched Bing.
What about searching WikiLeaks, and what about searching edwardsnowden.com for PRC defense industries?
I'll go look through WikiLeaks 1 second.
The other thing that you can do is search on the program name.
Yeah.
So, wonderful chat people, try searching on FIDIR, try searching on, in quotation marks, factories and institutes directory. And throw in the acronym as well. Anyway, my read of this is that that is a proprietary software product.
Yeah, I agree.
That it was probably designed for database sharing in factories and institutes where they have multiple different data centers associated with the same business, and they're wanting to assimilate or integrate or analyze those alongside each other, and that it was the best that the NSA could come up with for a short-term solution was to use this proprietary software, that they have had their S1 and S2 teams. I actually don't think those are teams, they are like HR groupings. Oh no, it says team, a joint S1, S2 team. Completed development. So basically they've like integrated, they've customized it and integrated it. And it says which is accessible to external customers via interlink. So they've already made it available and it's already there for use. But they have then decided to create their own solution of the same concept, of this new concept of database reporting. And the new one will apply to many different types of data sources. And it will be called the structured SIGINT sharing space. And that I need to add into my notes because that is the super interesting term.
Yeah, I didn't find anything in WikiLeaks on PRC defense industries, but I did find another Snowden document on edwardsnowden.com. It's a shadowing Charlie Meals file, and it says it's from PRC defense industry. So I'm going to link that to you guys in chat.
Can you share screen it and let's have a look through it? But guys, also can you search on edwardsnowden.com structured SIGINT sharing space?
Okay.
But I'll hand over to you, Elizabeth, for a few minutes, and if you can just share screen and talk us through what you just found, that would be great.
Awesome. It's significant, but I found that I just searched in quotations PRC defense industries in the Snowden documents, and this is what I found. I know we've looked at a number of different you know, shadowing Charlie Meals, shadowing Quirk, all of that type of document. So we may have looked at this before, and it looks like this is an early document because it's dated 2003. So I'm betting that this is from batch 3. I remember that this was maybe one of the documents in the first stream that I did with her. Because I remember it being very odd that they used Charlie Meals as some sort of code name. Yeah, I think this is one that I remember. So I don't remember that there was anything particularly interesting in here as far as content that we saw, but I think it is very interesting. This is from PRC Defense Industries. And then this S2B33. And I'm completely ignorant as to what that S2B33 designation means. Is that related to the Army S2 or not? I will.
No, these are development teams.
Okay. Thank you, Suzie, for saving me because I had no idea. Yeah, it's weird to me that this would be from PRC Defense Industries.
We definitely need to know more about this PRC Defense Industries.
I'm thinking that this is what I think about that. I think that the reason and when you literally just search for PRC Defense Industries in quotation marks on a search engine, nothing comes up that's exactly right. So I think that this is some sort of not publicly available group that is either some sort of shell or front. No, that doesn't sound right because shells and fronts are usually public. So there's something up with that. Top secret, highest classification. Huh. No, that's not right. This is unclassified. Weird, very odd.
Can you read it to us, Elizabeth?
Yeah, sure. It just said the title is Shadowing Charlie Meals. It just goes, it starts out saying, I found Shadowing Deputy Director of Signals Intelligence, Charlie Meals, very interesting and worthwhile. I encourage anyone interested in seeing a view from the top to consider signing up for the program. You won't regret it. But first, a word of caution. Make sure you get a good night's sleep the night before. You'll be in for a very... I remember reading this with you. And my internet is now going unstable.
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward. I find it very interesting that this document is labeled as from PRC.
Yeah, no, that's really mind-blowing. I don't understand why they would be sending this.
Well, usually these documents are from an NSA department. So does that mean that PRC Defense Industries is a department of the NSA? Does that mean that the NSA is developing products for and then selling them to their defense organizations?
It sounds something like that. There's something going on with this where it's not a normal company. So, and the next paragraph just talks about the schedule is grueling and that it started so early and the meetings covered a myriad of topics and went all day. During their experience, they gained new insights into a project they were already familiar with, one during a briefing and one was briefed on 2 prototype systems. They learned about efforts to improve the early threat warning process at a field site and developed some appreciation of metrics during a corporate metrics review meeting. But what impressed me most was how cohesive Major General Quirk, Charlie Meals, and their staff worked as a team. As an analyst, they came away with the feeling that, although they're physically removed from the analytic shops, they have the rank and file civilian and military workers in the forefront of their minds when they raise questions during a presentation or make a decision. I'm mangling my words so badly today. I now feel that they are more like co-workers, part of my team. Their focus is on enhancing and unencumbering the workplace as much as possible for the benefit of the analysts, which leads to increased productivity and efficiency. For example, during the corporate metrics meeting, Mr. Meals mentioned the prospect of an easy-to-use tool that, for analysts to seek and add product requirements to each report. Mr. Meals' concern was that the tool not be just another instrument which analysts would be forced to learn how to use. Rather, it had to be easy, transparent to use, or have similar features incorporated in tools already in use and familiar to analysts. Likewise, during a briefing on the possibility of deployment of equipment from one field site to another, MG Quirk was primarily concerned about the impact of the transfer on the people at the sites. He questioned if the transfer would be just a band-aid to temporarily fix the problem or if it would provide a more permanent solution. collaboration and cooperation are alive and well at the top of the Signals Intelligence Directorate, but you don't have to take my word for it. Sign up to be a shadow and see for yourself. So this definitely sounds like a document that's being sent from within the NSA to other departments or to the rest of the NSA employees. This doesn't sound like something that's coming from an outside company. And I'm going to stop sharing and check chat 1 second.
Yeah, it seems like PRC Defence Industries is in fact a division of the NSA.
Yeah.
Or a part of the NSA.
That
I would like to know a lot more about what they do.
Definitely. And it's interesting that they would title it in such a way that it sounds like an independent company or a separate company.
And now I'm just going back and rereading the document again to see in that context. So this document is from, and I'll just share screen, it is from the Analysis and Production Operations staff.
Yeah.
But that's just because they're talking about, it's the reporting side. Production in NSA sense means producing the reporting from the Eye of Sauron.
Well, this is interesting. So if we're right, then we've discovered a new division of the NSA that we didn't know about, or subdivision, or...
It's difficult to know. Okay, we should probably move on from that now. I've taken pretty extensive notes about it.
Okay.
And if something else comes up about this, we'll definitely find it. So was that the only thing on edwardsnowden.com that referenced PRC Defence Industries?
Yes. The only other document was the one that we initially looked at.
Was there anything on WikiLeaks?
No, there wasn't.
Okay. Very interesting. Okay. Next docs. And now the documents aren't loading for me. Awesome. Here we go. DIA changing its approach to analysis. From the NSA representative to DIA's Directorate of Analysis and Production. VADM Jacoby's plan to realign DoD all-source analytic resources. Originally titled the Defense Intelligence Analysis Program. Master, measure, and monitor. The focus on current intelligence at the expense of strategic intelligence. So what they have already as opposed to what they might need in the future. The intelligence community's seeming inability to identify potential crisis areas before they erupted, and unidentified intelligence gaps. The plan realigns the responsibilities of the various elements of the community, is designed to refine the community's ability to provide global situational awareness and warning of developing security issues while developing analytic depth against critical enduring issues. Okay, grouping intelligence efforts into master, the requirement to understand some issues and nations in great depth and breadth, to know everything about everything.
Interesting. I like these categories that they're giving. I would know that.
Just to explain them. Measure, to understand selected elements of some targets in great depth, to know everything about some topics, and monitor, maintain global situational awareness. This, yet again, I think is significant.
Yeah, no, I think anytime that they give us these types of definitions is very helpful. And definitely these particular definitions in and of themselves are definitely interesting.
They wanted to know everything about everything and know something about everything.
Yeah, it's like master sounds like it's focusing in like a laser beam on one a limited number of topics and knowing a lot of in depth about it, and then it goes down to kind of a super knowledge base of a lot of different broad issues. So.
And the plan is designed to eliminate duplication
by
assigning responsibility for each topic area to that element of the community. National Intelligence Priorities Framework 5-year outlook. So when you know they had the 15-year and this is their 5-year. The 15-year strategic and the 5-year priorities framework.
Interesting. That's also definitely noteworthy for sure.
Brief 2 weeks ago, he also stated the DIA will begin working on the major target areas in the master country list by conducting a thorough review of their collective knowledge on North Korean nuclear development.
Interesting.
Vice Admiral Jacoby is the DIA director. Okay. Yep, that I think is significant. Next. Information needs 10-minute. Okay, here we go. Customer relationship development communications. Can you spare 10 minutes to indicate how you use information needs?
Like you said, make the customer the active participant in steering the SIGINT. That's literally what you were saying.
Okay, NSA's linguist. That last one, we need to see what the responses to the survey are. Mm-hmm. The fact that there is one just indicates that at a later date there might be something else relevant. No, you're speaking my language. Oh, this is the third repost of the linguistic stuff. Okay, we don't need to look at that. And this is more language training.
Okay.
Not significant. Telecom customers can now pick their own phone numbers. What does it mean for SIGINT? Top secret. So this is the advent of VoIP, the historic advent of VoIP.
Yeah.
Why is this top secret? I would say that the part that is top secret is that it has ramifications for SIGINT.
Yeah.
So they don't want people to know that this affects SIG collection.
Yeah. That makes sense. They have that in bold. The location of the target can no longer be reliably determined based on the phone number, a fundamental change. Which
Theoretically, bin Laden could be using a US number in Afghanistan. And again, this is top secret, and that's why.
Yeah.
This complicates collection because the legislation theoretically restricted them from targeting US communications. So how can they know if the target is in the US or not?
So they want the law to be expanded to include internet service, including VoIP.
They've mandated that the law be expanded.
Mm-hmm.
So this is their interpretation of the law, as opposed to the law itself.
Yeah. They must telecommunications providers must enable wiretapping by law enforcement agencies, and we knew that. But
this is what the existing law states.
Such activities are outside the NSA's charter, but we may have an opportunity to partner with law enforcement, i.e. the FBI, on collection, selection, filtering, and analysis. In addition, some commercially available products have recently been launched to help VoIP providers comply with this law. And then regulatory issues have to be resolved. And this goes to the whole mass surveillance type subject that we all know quite a bit about, I think.
Okay, so the two interesting things here that I see is that VoIP is just hit as a service, and that there are impacts upon them.
Yeah.
Now, see, in the current day and age, this wouldn't be an issue for them, because in the current day and age, they would never be determining location by the number. They would be determining location. They'd be geolocating.
Yeah.
So they'd be doing it either via the GPS or by mapping the Wi-Fi points around the phone.
Okay.
So that's something that definitely won't still be an issue for them today. But it was interesting in the context of 2004.
Yeah.
Okay, Geographic Resource Centre has info you need, maps, data, and research from the Advanced Intelligence Research Services intern. See, this is before Google Maps. This is literally before Google Maps.
Yep. I think that's interesting just historically to see these things as they develop. And we've said that before, but we're plotting the timeline of how when these different capabilities started developing.
So they had to locate maps of Greece from tourist to maritime to transportation maps. And the entire field staff was then able to tap into the website collection directly from Athens.
Wow.
On Netscape. Classic. So Google Maps would have been as useful to the NSA as to anyone else.
Yeah.
So here's where they had their own Google Maps. If you're in the extended enterprise or unable to visit the GRC in person, the recently reorganized and redesigned GeoLib website is worth an online stroll. Under the search tab, maps and data are organized by country. So yeah, this effectively was a Google Maps for the NSA. The GRC is the agency's repository for worldwide geographic information and geodetic data for standard and special purpose hard copy maps, charts, gazettes, atlases, and related cartographic materials. One of 3 NSA libraries supporting analysts, linguists, reporters, technicians, engineers, managers, and other specialists.
I think that's
so it was a library. They literally maintained a library for geographic information. I think that's probably worth writing up if it hasn't been before.
Yeah.
The heading, the NSA's Google Maps.
Yeah, the early development, proto Google Maps. Someone said I'm drinking out of a flower vase. No, I'm not. It's just an old plastic cup, as you do.
Okay, the transition of High Tide, Skywriter, and SIGINT on-demand help functions to, oh my God, Chief Reporting Tools branch. So they've just rolled out an upgrade, basically.
Take advantage of the many experienced users. So they're having to get other employees to teach them how to use this. And they're bolding numerous working aids. So people obviously are having difficulties dealing with this new version, I guess.
Yeah, that's not really significant. I was processing an exploitation conference from Exploitation Services. Trailblazer. It's one of the more famous programs.
Definitely. Do we want to give context for that or just leave it? Because
so far I don't see anything significant. No. Okay, I think that's it for today. We're up to 169.
Okay, cool.
The next document is called Where's the Beef? SIGINT for the Department of Agriculture.
Oh wow. No, that's interesting sounding for sure.
Do you want to do it quickly?
Sure, yeah. Because I don't know if everybody knows this, but the Department of Agriculture is actually pretty powerful and an issue in itself in a lot of ways.
You may not think that a Department of Agriculture would have much interaction with signals intelligence, but in fact, it is a huge contributor to their mission. Top secret.
Yeah.
The US Department of Agriculture is involved in trade operations to protect and secure large segments of the US economy. So here we go again.
Yep.
Economic spying. Spying for economic gain.
Yeah, I think this is really huge.
They rely on SIGINT to support their negotiations in international trade.
Wow.
The Department of Agriculture makes routine negotiation decisions and recommendations to their chain of command based on signals intelligence.
Yeah, because I mean, bigger agriculture is a lot like big farmer, so.
They aren't top secret cleared, but they still are supported with SIGINT.
The NSA has a substantial and proven record in protecting US trade interests and keeping the food supply safe by providing relevant information. The NSA does a very...
So this sounds suspiciously like they take top secret information and just report it as secret.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that paragraph that you're looking at right now is interesting. The relationship between the WLO and sub-cabinet members of agriculture the relationship allows WLO representatives to attend weekly USDA briefings to ensure NSA is aware of trade issues and upcoming meetings. Additionally, WLO has access to the secretaries and other USDA leaders' membership calendars, stay on top, blah, 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 blah. But I'm interested in this because the agricultural industries and the USDA, these are huge, huge, powerful industries, and it's a lot like the big pharmaceutical companies and that industry effect on government. So seeing this interacting directly with the NSA, to me, is huge. The agricultural industries, create a huge amount of pollution, and I could go on a huge long rant, pro-veganism, but yeah.
And look at this.
Yeah. The Canadian partners as well deserve credit for their role in WLO's support of agriculture. Wow.
So Maui is, remember last week we talked about the multimedia interface?
Yeah.
They call it Maui. But the Canadian intelligence gathered from the Canadian spies is being used by the US Department of Agriculture.
Yeah, so I think this overall document is interesting, and then that's additionally interesting in and of itself. Yeah, a lot of people have complained that of issues with the meat and dairy industry, especially having a lot of powerful, a lot of power that maybe you wouldn't guess a food industry would have. But yeah. Yeah, and this is the other thing when people talk about global warming a lot of time, and I know probably a lot of people in this chat already know this, but you talk about global warming, but you don't see people discussing the impact of agriculture on global warming. So, you know.
Okay. I think that's it.
Awesome.
So, sure enough, even the Department of Agriculture
is a customer of the NSA.
A customer of the NSA and benefiting from the Eye of Sauron, and doing so purely for economic reasons.
Yep. I think
that's terrorism, yeah. Not for terrorism, not for war, but purely to weigh the scales in their favor in trade negotiations and to create economic benefits.
Yeah. And I think that's definitely my favorite document that we saw in the whole evening. Because no, that's really, I love, because this is the first document we saw this evening that actually did outline a customer. So, you know, again, that's the significance that we're looking for. And I think that that's really telling that you've got that economic basis for the customer, like you said.
I would love to get the quotes from the congressional hearings or whatever, where they're like, we don't spy for economic reasons, because I've heard them say that so many times. They're like over and over again, we do not spy for economic reasons. Then why are you giving signals intelligence to the Department of Agriculture?
Yeah, exactly. And that's actually a great way to write if you're writing an article. I don't know if that's the way you structure the Decipher. I think you have more like dot points in like a sentence. But if you're structuring an article around this document, you could say, and here are a couple of the times that they've said that they don't do this. And then here we have the example in the document of them doing exactly this. So.
Precisely. Okay, guys, let's just have a catch up with chat. I feel like I'm way behind on chat tonight. If you guys have any questions, now would definitely be the time, because we're going to wrap up in probably about 10 minutes. Yeah, Patrick says they talk about protecting the food supply, but then GMOs have proliferated.
Yeah. I could go on a long rant about the agricultural industries and their effect on the environment and a lot of, you know, related stuff like that. But
Protect What's True says controlling food production is definitely powerful.
Absolutely, yeah.
Joseph Smith, I'm so grateful for this YouTube channel. I'm so grateful that you guys care enough to even watch this.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm always so happily shocked that so many people join us and are interacting the whole time that we're streaming. It's wonderful.
Joe was here. Hi, Joe. Joe's our technical director for Internet Party.
Oh,
I'm
awesome.
so sorry, Joe. I didn't realize that you were here, but that's so cool that you came and were a part of this. Joe says that he loves that the NSA thinks that ArcView is cumbersome. It still is.
Interesting.
Wow. Super cool. Just reading through everyone's comments. Independent outsider Fly, that part of the SPID that's talking about the role of NSA customers is really important. And Fly says he's going to make a clip about it.
Awesome.
Oh, my silly chat hasn't, oh, I forgot it has a buffer. God, that's so annoying.
Yeah.
Okay. Guys, do you have anything you want to say to us before we go? I'm pretty keen to get some rest.
Oh.
Elizabeth, you're welcome to go on a rant about US Department of Agriculture. I find it amusing actually because I know virtually nothing about that. Like other than Monsanto related stuff, like that's about it.
Yeah, well, okay. So anybody who's watched a few, documentaries about animal agriculture, and there are plenty of them on Netflix. I mean, this is just a personal, topic that I'm interested in, but there's a whole lot of issues with the meat and dairy industries misrepresenting how much their industry costs as far as water. So, we have recently there was the drought in California, and there have been all these issues of global warming or climate change and the destruction that goes along with that, but you never hear about how much it takes to put together enough grain or enough corn or GMO soy, whatever, to feed these cows, and the water, and then all the pesticides poisoning the land to then just create like 1 pound of meat. And so apparently, from what I'm aware of, just there's a huge amount of money and power that is behind keeping that type of information away from the public, so that people feel like that meat and dairy are healthy and required in their diet. And on another level as well, it's there's from what I've heard, there's a lot of disinformation as far as the way that salmonella and some E. coli outbreaks are presented, because what they'll do is they'll highlight in the media or the news, they'll say, oh my God, E. coli contamination in salad, like in spinach greens or something, but they won't talk about the times that it happens in meat. And the problem is that the reason that spinach is being contaminated is from animal, contamination. So the idea is that meat and dairy are presented as more safe even than vegetable products or whatever. So it's just a huge topic. And so it doesn't surprise me, knowing, like, just coming from that background of researching that area a little bit, it does not surprise me at all that the USDA would be interacting with the NSA, because it's like, the way that Suzie talks about the intelligence agencies as being a mafia, and we think of, big pharma as being, or other industry, lots of different varieties of industries all the time, is kind of having this, unhealthy interaction with our government and our representation, and even the intelligence agencies. This is another sector of the corporate space that is unhealthily interacting with our government space that's supposed to be working for us and not for them. And it's surprising, but it seems to be pretty like the amount of support that they require to keep up their narrative and to drive the lines that they want to drive for their profit are I guess pretty difficult to maintain, because they definitely seem to lean heavily on government and on, I guess, the NSA as well. And I mean, obviously it sounded like from the document that we read that the way in which they were interacting with the NSA seemed to me to sound more like they were trying to get ahead of deals, more than like let's hide so-and-so line from the public. I don't think that's what we were looking at in that document. The document sounded like it was trying to get ahead of other countries and get the most profit they could. And yeah. So my personal problem with that whole industry as well is not just in America that, you have the huge amounts of pesticides and whatever that are being thrown on, like the GMO soy that is then fed to the animals that we then eat. It's also the fact that, at least deforestation in South America and other places, that they're clearing, rainforest in order to graze cattle. There's a huge amount of deforestation that goes along with that. So like the different there, basically what animal agriculture has is a whole lot of tentacles that go out into different aspects of pollution or climate change destroying the planet. So when people talk about climate change in animals, they think usually of like, cows burping or sheep burping or whatever. That's absolutely not where the harm ends there. It's multifaceted, and it's in a lot of different ways, not just directly with the animal itself, but in what goes into keeping that animal fed. Yeah, so I could go on a long rant for this for a long time, but I'm just going to check chat real quick and see what you guys are saying.
That was beautifully put, I thought.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I don't know. I guess because I've been interested in this topic, I'm not really quite sure how much background everyone else has on that. But I mean, if you've watched like Cowspiracy and some of these other documentaries that have been out for a while, I mean, it goes into that really in depth. And it also, like, those documentaries also show kind of the pushback they get from government bodies and industry heads of industry as far as hiding the truth about the effect of animal products and the environmental effects and all that sort of thing. And actually, and I was it Cowspiracy? It was one of those documentaries that are widely available. It also goes into the fact that the harmful effects of these industries is stratified. So if you're in a poor area or a minority area, you're much more likely to have a hog farm. It's similar to the Dakota Access Pipeline, which was going through Native American areas because it was rerouted to avoid the white area. And so similarly, you know, these hog farms, chicken farms, all of these things are going to be placed in areas that are poorer or minority areas. And it's just really like there's all sorts of issues that stem from animal agriculture that, you know, and obviously, yeah, it's just not all with the methane that the cows make or something. Yeah, and so basically what happens is people have the basic idea that the government is there to protect you. So like the USDA or the FDA or whatever, that they are, just like the politicians, are supposed to be voted in and then represent the people the same way, you know, these government bodies regarding agriculture are meant to protect the public at large. And instead, the way that things have developed in this country is that they are affected by corporations, and that's something that is, you know, validated in that in the Princeton study from 2014 that said that business interests have much more power than the public does with their vote in affecting policy that's enacted. So the same thing happens in all sorts of different industries across the board. But I just think that people generally aren't aware maybe of how important the agriculture industry is, and that it acts in a similar way to the big pharma or military industry, you know, like, you know, arms companies and that type of thing. It's not just, you know, I don't think that it ends just with looking for better trade, you know, a lot more interesting than that. So it's a topic that interests me.
And I think it's so cool now. I feel like lucky to have you again, because you have like different areas of interest and different areas of expertise to me. That's something that I know virtually nothing about, agriculture. So I think,
yeah, well, and Decipher you has nothing to do with agriculture or anything like that, but it was just interesting to see that document pop up.
There was just a couple of questions that I saw in the chat. I'll just revisit quickly. There was one from an independent outsider. He said, is there any evidence yet of priority tiers for customers? We haven't seen that yet, but it would be almost guaranteed that in the customer request, the information needs portal, that there would be some kind of prioritization of things. There would have to be. There would really have to be. There was another question from, I think it was from Patrick. Big question here. What leverage might you speculate this technology we discussed tonight gave the NSA upon a fledgling Google and other search platforms? Well, we know Google was founded by State Department people, and the State Department are inherently involved and have been every step of the way. I'm sure that NSA needs and considerations would have been taken into effect. And someone, I think, has just linked to some books about Google as well.
Yeah.
Cool. Any last questions, you guys? I'm not sure how big the delay is on the stream.
Yeah, and also somebody mentioned that my voice was, and my internet has been unstable this evening. I've noticed it break up a few times, but just is what it is.
Cool. Thank you guys so much for joining us again tonight. And we will be back on Tuesday to continue. And I think we were up to document number 170 in the batch, which means we're well over halfway through.
Great. That's so cool.
Yeah, we're definitely well over halfway through now through the batch.
But and I'm going to start.
It's true. Do you speak with Snowden occasionally? That's a familiar sounding name. Protect What's True. Would I have heard of him somewhere before? I love you guys too. Everyone's telling us they love us. Thank you. You guys are
awesome. And it's so great to see you all here. It's great. I'm going to start working on the next article about these findings, because I'm still, like, even where I ended the last article, still way behind all the findings that we've done so far. So it's going to be awesome.
Okay, you guys take care. Joe, thank you so much for joining us tonight. It's really awesome to see you here. Love back to you, Eric, and love back to you, Bridget, and love back to you, everybody. Thank you. Yeah, this is awesome work. It's important work, and I'm really pleased that you're all here to be a part of it. So thank you so much, and we will see you on Tuesday. Good night from Moscow.
Bye. See you on Tuesday.